Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of The Extra Point. We are glad to have all of you back for episode 11. With The Extra Point, I am Roland Rainey, CEO of R2 Sports Management, and hosting your Extra Point. Of course, with me is my colleagues, as always. They are the creme de la creme of knowledge and information and stats. So we'll start out with Justice Gordon coming out of the great state of New York. Justice, how we doing this fine Thursday?
I'm doing great, Roland. How you doing?
Not bad, man. Not bad. Long day at work, but happy to be here discussing football. And we got with the East West Shrine, uh, gear going on. We got Robert Parker coming out of New Jersey. How we doing, Robert?
How's it going, Roland? How are we doing tonight?
Not bad. Not bad at all. And now we're going to caveat this next introduction because normally we would say Jeremy is coming out of Indiana, which he is. However, for this episode, Jeremy is joining us from a lake house in support of his brother-in-law's bachelor party. Jeremy, how are we doing today?
Doing good, Roland. Ready to talk football.
I'm quite sure you're doing good since you're on a lake house for a bachelor party. But hey, I'm still happy that you found the opportunity to join today's episode. So special thanks to Jeremy and special shout out to your brother-in-law who's getting ready to get married there. So having said that, as we always say here on the Extra Point, there is a lot going on. And I tell you, I want to dig in deep, not necessarily about the league and what's going on as far as COVID and so forth. I really want to dig into player assessment today. And there is one right out of the gate I want to jump on, and that is Le'Veon Bell. Holy smokes, here we go again. Le'Veon, definitely left Pittsburgh, but not under the smoothest terms, and thought that maybe going over to the Jets was going to be a nice change of pace. His talents could hopefully bring something extra to the table, and here we are in camp, and him and the coach not getting along, having issues right out of the gate. So let's shoot this off over to Robert. Robert, what's your take on this Le'Veon thing?
Well, you know what they say, Roland. Where's smoke, there's fire. So I think you have something brewing out there with Le'Veon Bell and the head coach Adam Gase. We seen Le'Veon Bell in social media tweet out. He had a spat with Jamal Adams. So pretty much, I think Le'Veon Bell is not too comfortable in his situation in New York. So I think he might be trying to push his way out of there. If not after this year, the year after that, if you ask me, Roland.
So, that's interesting you mentioned that because, oftentimes when players uh, quickly go to social media and express their frustration with the organization, to your very point, where there's smoke, there's a fire brewing. And I think in Le'Veon's case, he wants to be the primetime guy. I think there's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. But do you believe that the coaching staff, Justice, is doing the right thing by kind of protecting him in practice, not giving him as much reps? Or do you believe the coaches is using this almost as a mechanism to let him know you will play within our framework and not do anything other than?
Yeah, well, first off, Robert, I love talking football with you, but I got to stop this in its tracks right now. I don't think Le'Veon Bell is trying to push his way out at all. Me being a Jets fan, me being in New York, I see all the news every day. I probably know more about this subject than, out of the four of us, so I really want to break this down and really explain what happened because, it's crazy. It's crazy to me to see people think that, Le'Veon Bell is trying to push his way out.
rewinding back to 2019 when Le'Veon Bell was a free agent. Jamal Adams, he was a main reason why Le'Veon Bell joined the Jets. Him and Jamal had a connection. Jamal would, hit his phone up all the time, explaining the culture's changing. He's in this for the long haul. And that's what really, hooked Le'Veon Bell into coming with the Jets. And, as we all know, a month ago or so, Jamal Adams wasn't happy with his contract. And, he started making all this noise and he pushed his way out of New York. And I think we all know, after the trade went down with Jamal Adams, him and Le'Veon Bell and Jamal Adams kind of went back and forth on social media. And, Le'Veon Bell kind of took this to heart because, Jamal Adams was the one who told Bell when he was free agent that he should buy into this culture. It's changing. He believes in it. And then fast forward a year later, and Jamal Adams himself pushes himself out of town and leaves Le'Veon Bell here. And, I give props to Le'Veon Bell. He has handled himself with 100% class ever since he's got here. He's been 100% leader for this team. The way Jamal Adams left, I think, was disgraceful. It kind of left a bad taste in my mouth. And, Le'Veon Bell has picked this team up on his shoulders. He has been that leader. And I think it's really unfair for people to kind of pit Le'Veon Bell and Adam Gase together. When the news broke out, when Le'Veon Bell, went on Twitter saying he wants the ball, he needs more carries, I kind of want to break this down. So since the start of training camp, the Jets have been hampered with injuries. It's half of their starters went down with injuries. And I think, the main cause of that is the COVID-19 and the, NFL shortening training camps. They didn't give these players, the proper time to get in football shape. And I think that's what's leading to these injuries so far. So going into the Jets training camp, their number one cornerback in Pierre Desir, who they signed to be their number one corner, he got hurt the second day, I believe. Their second round pick, Denzel Mims, he got hurt the first day adjusting to a ball. He hurt his hamstring. He just came back 2 days ago. And, they, Jamal Adams left. McDougal missed a few days. I know May just missed a few days. Herndon just missed a few days. Perryman is out. He just got hurt last week. He should be ready. But, the injuries from day one have hampered this team to a point where Sam Darnold's only 2 targets in practice were Josh Malone and Jehu Chesson, a former Michigan wide receiver, just kind of bounced around from training camp to training camp. So they really haven't been healthy. And Adam Gase, when they were at that practice, Adam Gase took the safe route. Le'Veon Bell came over to the trainer and said his hamstring was tightening up or something like that. So, Adam Gase took the safe route and, pulled him out of practice. They didn't want to injure him. And, I just think it's kind of unfair to overshadow a great coaching decision by Gase. I'm not the biggest supporter of Gase, but I think it's kind of unfair to overshadow, a safe call and protecting probably the best player on the roster. And I think it's getting way overblown what's going on. Go ahead.
So I hear you, Justice, loud. And I think you make some very valid points. However, when you go back to making a safe decision as a coach is one thing, but the individual who is putting this information out is the same individual that you're definitely advocating for. So, on one hand, there might be this essence of Le'Veon handling himself with a lot of class. On the other hand, he's posting things in social media realms, which I think we all know, and we talked about this actually in the last episode. There are times when players should go to social media and use it as a platform, and then there's times where to just leave it in-house. So why would Le'Veon, kind of stoke some flames to something potentially that might not be anything, to your very point?
Well, I think it's no secret. Le'Veon Bell, he wants to be the star player. He wants the ball. He wants to be that guy, and he's a very emotional player. When he from the start of training camp, he has advocated that he's in the best shape of his life. He's down to 215, I think it is now. He's been taking up boxing. He's in phenomenal shape. And he really took to heart last season what happened. Everyone's writing him off now. They're saying he's washed up, he's old. And he has a fire under his belt that he wants to go out there and prove that he is still a top 5 back in this league, and he wants to be on the field. Was it the best decision to go on social media and complain about it? No. But at the same time, he and Adam Gase came out. They had an hour talk the next day. They cleared the air. They're fine. They have no problems with each other. So I think this situation is just very overblown right now.
What do you say, Jeremy, coming from the lake? Is this a overblown scenario, or is this Le'Veon just wanting to be that, that star player for the Jets, or is there a little something there?
Well, I'd have to say I think it's a little bit of both. Going back to when Bell got signed, Coach Gase came out and said, I didn't want to spend $15 million on a running back, essentially, when, Le'Veon Bell first got signed with the Jets. So I do think there is something there, but I also agree with Justice. I do think this is a little overblown. Bell came out on Twitter today saying, stop pitting, to quote Justice exactly, was to say, stop pitting me and Adam Gase against each other. And then I think it's absolutely right that Le'Veon Bell wants to be the star player in the. You signed him to a big deal, so give him the ball. I mean, no one ever complained, to Coach Jackson when Michael Jordan said, "I want the ball." Star players want the ball. They want to make the big plays. I think this is just normal back and forth between player and coach, to be honest. It's just that, Bell probably did, like you said, probably shouldn't have went to social media about it. He should have just gone and done the 1-hour meeting like Justice said they did and just talked. I think that's some of the biggest things that some of these players do is just go to the source and talk it out. You don't have to go to Twitter to voice your displeasure. Go to your coaches and talk to them about it. I think because he went to Twitter, this has been overblown because people tend to take things that have been put out on Twitter with such a gravitas now because that's such a big platform for players to voice their.
So, having said this, and I think you make a very, intriguing point, but what I want to add to this, going back to Robert's initial point, it's not like this is nothing new for Le'Veon, right? Now, most people would argue Pittsburgh was a whole different, ball of wax. You had contract issues, you had franchise tag conversations, areas where he didn't want to be in. And then, of course, that quickly spun out of control. Is Coach Gase the right guy to make sure that this doesn't get out of control? Because we've all seen it, right? We've all seen the moment a Twitter comment is made or a Facebook comment or any social media comment is made, the next step is some type of press conference. The next step is tit for tat. Coach says something, player says something. Some other player gets interviewed, they make a comment, and then the pot gets stirred up. To Justice's point and to Jeremy's point, Robert, do you believe that this is somewhat of a trend with Le'Veon, or is this something that quickly got out of hand that the coach, the head coach, not the player, but the head coach needs to corral this immediately as not to bring any type of attention to the team?
Most definitely, Roland. I think Gase needs to, nip it in the bud early. I wouldn't want to go on record and say this is becoming a trend for Le'Veon. However, we've seen, his diva tendencies in Pittsburgh, and we kind of see it boil up in New York. However, I think Le'Veon can, just shut up everyone on Twitter that's, trying to put him and Adam Gase together by, put in a all-pro season. I think winning cures everything. And I think if Le'Veon Bell gets back to the Le'Veon Bell of old that we know he can become, I think that's just shut up, all the doubters and the naysayers out there. So I think Adam Gase, if he could put a game plan together where, you can give Le'Veon Bell the ball, and give him the touches that he wants and also keep him healthy in the same regard, I think, they can, stick it out for years to come moving forward.
Yeah, this is once again, let's go back to episode 10, and hell, let's actually go back to episode 9. We talked about this. Players using social media for the right reasons. And oftentimes, social media, now, if the staff is not listening to you, yes, oftentimes the way to get their quick attention is to make a quick post on social media to bring some type of attention to the team, the organization, or even disgrace the organization. And immediately a meeting happens and things tend to kind of pan its way out. One of the issues, however, in this particular case, if I'm Le'Veon and I want to be that star player with the Jets, to Jeremy's point, I just left a bad situation in Pittsburgh. And my situation wasn't just isolated. It carried on for almost half a year, if not more than half a year. And here I am at a new organization, want to be that prize star, but yet the first place I go with my displeasure is social media. Probably not the right idea, Le'Veon. Probably need to keep that one in house with the coach, with maybe peers. There's nothing wrong with going to a peer on a football field and saying, hey, I got to talk to the coach, man. I need to get more reps. I don't know, Justice. I believe that you're absolutely right. I think that he wants to do the right thing. But what concerns me is that he still hasn't learned, keep your big mouth shut, do the job. But if you have a problem, go to the right people in the organization. Am I off on this one, Justice?
Well, I think the situation's being a little bit overblown. I mean, I would rather Le'Veon Bell than an Antonio Brown, Beckham, Jamal Adams, who go on social media to push their way out of a situation. That's not what Le'Veon Bell is doing. If you look back at what Antonio Brown did with the Raiders, that's nothing compared to what Le'Veon Bell is doing now. You look at what Jamal Adams just did. He's not doing that. He was just frustrated over an incident. I get it. It should have been dealt with in-house, but I don't see a major issue right now because of it.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, here on the Extra Point, Justice out of New York is saying there's no problem here with the Jets. However, coming out of New Jersey with Robert's saying, I don't know, potentially, well, there's smoke. There might be a small brewing fire there. We'll wait and see. But I will definitely say that I hope Le'Veon becomes the star that he really wants to be. It's pretty sad that his career at Pittsburgh was interrupted because we saw the making of one hell of a running back. I mean, he is one hell of a running back, but he was definitely on a Hall of Fame track. Hopefully he can pick that right back up with the Jets. So let's go ahead and switch this around. And let's talk about another player and another organizational issue. And we're going to go down to the boot, and that's in Louisiana with the Saints, and that is with Kamara. I don't know, guys. Is this something, Jeremy, or not?
I kind of like Justice said with Le'Veon Bell. I think it's a little overblown. I think he used, the media as a way to voice his displeasure over his contract. I mean, he's not the first running back to voice his displeasure being in the last year of his rookie contract when he's clearly outplayed it. Dalvin Cook has done it in Minnesota. Running backs in general have done it and have gone on to say, look, I have done a lot for this organization. I deserve to be paid more. I said at the same time, though, from my understanding, he and the Saints are only a few $1 million off of a projected, potential extension. Again, I don't think he did the right thing by going to the media, but sometimes these players, that's just their first instinct, is to put it out on the media and see what type of traction they can get. Because then later that very same day, Ian Rappaport reported from Alvin Kamara himself that he wants to be a Saint. He wants to be there for the long haul, and I understand the Saints said that they would entertain the idea of trading him, but I think that's both sides using their leverage to a certain degree, because I think both sides know, especially the Saints, they are chasing a Super Bowl. They have been for the last 3 or 4 years, and they keep coming up short. Alvin Kamara is one of their best playmakers out there, no doubt about it. They need him in-house if they're going to make a Super Bowl push. I think Alvin Kamara knows that. I think the Saints know that. I just think they need to work something out here. He went to the media to voice his displeasure, and of course the media ran with it because it's a big story. He's one of the best playmakers in the NFL when he's healthy. So, of course, they ran with this, but I think it's a little overblown, to be honest. I think both sides are going to come to a deal. I think the Saints want him there for the long haul. And I think they, like I said here just a few seconds ago, if they really want to make a Super Bowl push, he's part of that equation.
So since you're mentioning he's part of the equation, I'm going to come back to that comment because I want to look at a very unique stat that I recently saw, and I'm very curious on how they're going to utilize him moving into the future. Now, Robert, is this more a Kamara issue versus the Saints issue? Did he just basically leverage social media to try to leverage his position in the negotiations, or does he really have an issue with the organization right now?
Honestly, Roland, I think it's a little bit of both. And the reason why I say that, because Alvin Kamara came out and he said, hey, I played on a partially torn MCL last year. I only missed 2 games, and I still put up over 1,300 yards, total yards. He see Joe Mixon get a contract extension. You see, just like Jeremy said, you see Dalvin Cook, have a contract negotiations. And I think it's not so much of an issue between Alvin Kamara and the Saints. I think it's more so of a running back issue that we're going to see in moving forward, just because the position has been devalued so much. And on top of that, Todd Gurley getting his big contract and getting hurt right after just doesn't help anyone in the running back position after that. Christian McCaffrey gets the groundbreaking contract deal, and everyone's trying to, get to Christian McCaffrey. However, I mean, you look at the Panthers organization, they kind of went all in on Christian McCaffrey by letting Cam Newton go. So I think the Saints have to worry about, fitting Alvin Kamara within the salary cap. You have, a great young corner, Marshawn Lattimore, who's in the last year of his rookie deal. So he has to get paid. So I think it's not so much of a Alvin Kamara Saints issue. I think it's more so of a running back issue that a lot of these running backs is going to have to deal with moving forward, Roland.
Hey, so you bring up a great point, and I'm actually just going to wing this one out here, and either one of you can chime in on this one. I mean, we know about his injury and some of the things he encountered last season. Still put up some fairly decent yards, of course. But one of the stats that jumped out at me was the number of touchdowns he had in 2018 compared to 19. Oftentimes when a running back have a bad season, it is because they suffer some significant injury, or maybe a new head coach has come in and they've changed the offense up. He went from 14 touchdowns to 5. That is a drastic change. What happened there with the offense? What happened with his inclusion into the organization on that offensive, in the offensive scheme? Is there any there, with how they utilize him. Jeremy, you mentioned earlier, they definitely need him if they want to make a Super Bowl run. And I totally agree. But what has happened, which has forced the Saints to utilize him in a different capacity, which definitely affected his stats. If you look at his stats between 2018 and 2019.
Well, I think part of that is, remember that Drew Brees was out for a little bit of time last year, so Teddy Bridgewater steps in. He's got different relationships with guys he's been practicing with. I think that was part of the situation. And then Alvin Kamara said himself, he was playing through an MCL. He was not the same explosive player that he was in 2018 versus as he was in 2019. I definitely think that's part of the reason why his touchdowns decreased. And I also think part of it is defensive game planning. You understand that Kamara is such a weapon out of the backfield as a receiver. I think they started playing to that. They're going to make other players beat you. That's one thing the Patriots have done year in and year out is they challenge you to beat them without your top playmaker, essentially. They scheme a player out of an offensive game plan at times. It's incredible how they've done it at times, whether they're doubling a wide receiver or they're, like I said, there could be more conscious of Alvin Kamara coming out of the backfield where he's made such a dangerous impact on this game is his ability to catch a ball out of the backfield, matched up on a linebacker or safety and just make them look absolutely foolish at times. So I think the change of quarterback, the injury definitely affected his numbers. I mean, most players who play through injuries do not perform up to the par as they were before the injury. So I definitely think that was part of the equation. And then I just think another thing with the contract situation in here is that you have to remember he was in the same draft class as Dalvin Cook, Christian McCaffrey, Aaron Jones. All these guys are getting big deals. He just wants to join the group. And like Robert said, the running back situation has been devalued. You don't see running backs typically go in round one anymore because teams don't want to give him the big contract right away. I think all he's arguing is that he's earned the bigger contract and that he's, on par with his colleagues out of that draft class to get a big deal.
Hey, I hear you, and I believe you all have made some very valuable points here. And I think the point that's more important is him and his agent looking at his value. And to your point, Jeremy, when he's looking at his peers that he was drafted with, the fact that the Saints are always in the mix when it comes to getting close to the Super Bowl. They have deep runs into the playoffs. It's not like they're on the outskirts trying to work their way in. They always work their way in. So I definitely see the argument here. And I believe maybe there's no there, but I think this is more business savvy, right? Him and his agent leveraging maybe his positioning on what he can bring with the organization. And of course, the organization leveraging their position with him. And basically, hopefully, they'll come to some agreement. It looks like they're on that path right now to get that accomplished. But I think what we've just showed here on the extra point today is that when you look at a player's position, it's not as clean cut as, the player is upset, they go into social media. Hey, the player is not getting a big contract, they're going to social media. There are external variables that impact the way they look at things. And like Justice mentioned earlier, he's out there in New York. He sees the media, he's seeing the environment. So he sees a different side of Le'Veon that we typically don't get a chance to see. Same thing with Kamara. There are folks who get to see a different side of that equation. So for a lot of fans out there, when you are looking and you're at home assessing whether these players are being selfish in their way of going about gathering attention to basically get their way, there's often multiple sides to that conversation. And oftentimes, when you look at a center point, that center point is some type of business deal, whether they're looking for a larger contract, whether the agent is trying to negotiate something, or whether the organization is just trying to protect the member from themselves. And then just as a point, I think that's what the Jets are doing with Le'Veon, just kind of protecting him from himself right now because of all the injuries that they encountered. The last thing they need to do is get another injury out there. So, ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to The Extra Point. We're here with Justice, Robert, and Jeremy, and we'll go ahead and wrap this up today. Hey, we are close, my friends. The season kicks off in less than 10 days. And here we are, half of the country, from an NCAA standpoint, not playing football. You got the other half playing football. And then here we are getting ready for the NFL to kick off next week. What does next week look like, Robert? I don't know. What is next week going to look like for us?
I think exciting, Roland. If I'm going to choose one word, I'm definitely going to say exciting. And the reason why I say that is because I think we had a conversation before we got on tonight. We caught ourselves watching high school football over the weekend. So with that being said, we had a large population that was craving high school football. So I can just only imagine when the NFL comes back next week. Honestly, if you ask me, I wish it was a better matchup. We have the Kansas City Chiefs going against the Houston Texans. And the Houston Texans is going to be without DeAndre Hopkins. So that kind of hurt the Texans' chances to kind of upset the Super Bowl champs. But I'm definitely going to be excited. I just can't wait. Week 1, it's a lot of great matchups. My Vikings is definitely going out to Green Bay. That's going to be a tough one, but I'm excited, Roland. So I'm excited for football to come back.
All right, Justice, what's your thoughts? Are we going to have a great kickoff with a great audience in the stadium, or is this going to, might be disappointing? What are your thoughts?
You're absolutely going to have a kickoff. We're absolutely going to have a great kickoff to the football season next week. I can't imagine what the ratings are going to be. Like Robert said, it's not a great matchup, but you got two young quarterbacks. Deshaun Watson's looking to get his money. He's going to ball out this year. And, I just think everyone is going to be dialed into this game. Everyone's been waiting so long for this. There's like half a college football season going on. And I think this is a great week for fans. It's going to feel like there's been a weight lifted off our shoulders. We're going to get some sense of normalcy back with football. And, I can't wait for it. I'm excited. And it's going to be, provided everyone stays healthy, they keep the numbers down. I think we're in for a great year.
All right. Hey, that's 2 for 2 there. Jeremy, is next week going to be awesome or not?
Well, of course it's going to be awesome. We're getting football back. For months for football to come back. And like Robert said, I caught myself watching almost 9 hours of high school football last week. This is medicine, guys. People have been wanting to get a sense of normalcy back, and football is a big proponent of that. The NFL, college football, we saw college football make a return last week. First play of the Austin Peay game, 75 yards, touchdown on the very first play. Myself, when I saw that live, I was watching that live when that happened. I was like, thank God we are back to a point where football can be part of our lives again. I mean, I have been so looking forward to this. I am so excited for next week. And, you guys keep saying that this won't be much of a matchup. I'm looking at two of the young elite quarterbacks in this league going head to head. I think this is going to be a much better matchup than you guys realize. This is a replay of an AFC Championship game where the Texans held a commanding lead at one point and then just got destroyed the rest of the game. If you don't think that's in the back of the Texans' mind right now, they are definitely remembering that they were that they were one game shy of going on to an AFC Championship game and to potentially going to a Super Bowl. I think that's going to be a much better game with Mahomes and Watson dueling it out, because I don't think either defenses are elite, but it's going to be a fun offensive show no matter what. A guy like David Johnson, who is now in Houston, he still has a lot to prove. He still has a lot to prove that he's got some gas in the tank, that he's still the playmaker that everyone thinks he can be. I mean, I think we're in for a great week of football. And like I just said, just to have football back, I think that's such a huge, huge deal for our society right now. Like Justice said, let's hope and pray that everyone stays healthy so it can be a continued thing. We'd hate to have a good start and then just for it to fall off. But the NFL has only had something like 10 new cases here recently of COVID, which is a big success, amongst players, staff, coaches, all of this. I think we're in for a great week next weekend, just because we've all been looking forward to this and building up expectations for this. I think I don't think we're going to be disappointed at all. We're all going to be very relieved that we're getting a part of our, of this back. I think we're going to have a great weekend.
I'm laughing because Jeremy is going on and on and on. He is ready, ladies and gentlemen. Jeremy is ready for football. He's at a lake house for a bachelor party. He has the Labor Day weekend. He got football coming up on Thursday. Holy smokes. This man is having one hell of a time right now. So life is going to be good for him. Life is going to be good for all of us. And I want to tell all the fans out there, we will switch it up. So I'll make the announcement right now. We will switch up the Extra Point. The Extra Point, we will start airing on Wednesday nights. That will allow us to break down the upcoming games, do some in-house assessments, and provide that to you all before you actually get to see the game. And that will see if we're spot on as scouts. We'll see if we're spot on how players are performing on the field, and if our doing our job of assessment, how great we really are. So, and I think Justice Robert and Jeremy and myself, we won't brag too much, but I think we're pretty damn good. So having said that, hey, I'm glad we were able to get off tonight with the Extra Point. For everyone out there, Labor Day weekend, please be safe, take care of each other. No, please don't drink and drive. If you are drinking, have a plan. But we are looking to be back here Wednesday with an in-depth assessment of that Thursday night game. We are excited here on the Extra Point. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Roland, and on behalf of Justice, Robert, and Jeremy, thanks once again for joining us here on the Extra Point.